What gives plants their strength, bacteria their armor, and fungi their toughness? The secret is the cell wall, a structure we humans don't have. But why not? In this video, we'll explore the fascinating world of cell walls, what they are, why different organisms build them in different ways, how they compare to the cell membrane, and why they matter in science, medicine, and even in our everyday lives. But first, let's go back in time, to the very beginning of biology as we know it. In the year 1665, a scientist named Robert Hooke peered into a simple microscope and observed thin slices of cork. What he saw looked like tiny compartments, almost like the small rooms in a monastery. He called them cells. What Hooke was actually looking at was not living material at all, but the tough outer walls of dead plant cells. Without realizing it, he had stumbled upon one of the most important structural features in biology, the cell wall. From that moment, the idea of the cell became the foundation of biology. But here's the twist: not every living cell has a wall. Plants, fungi, bacteria, algae, and even diatoms rely on cell walls for structure and survival. Yet animals, including humans, evolved without them. Why would life take such different paths? To answer that, we need to first understand what a cell wall really is, and why it plays such a crucial role in the survival of so many organisms. So, what exactly is a cell wall? In the simplest terms, it's a rigid outer boundary that surrounds the cell membrane. Think of it as an extra layer of armor, protecting and supporting the delicate life inside. Its main purpose is threefold. First, to give the cell its shape. Without the wall, most cells would be shapeless bags of fluid. Second, to provide protection, shielding the cell against mechanical stress and outside attack. And third, to prevent bursting under pressure. Inside every living cell, there's a constant flow of water and solutes. If the pressure builds too high, the wall keeps the cell intact, almost like the walls of a dam holding back water. But here's where it gets fascinating. Not every cell has this protective wall. Some organisms rely heavily on it for survival, while others, like us humans, evolved without it. So, who exactly builds cell walls, and what are they made of? Let's find out. Let's start with the most familiar, the plant cell wall. This wall is mainly made of three ingredients: cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. Together, they form a tough but versatile structure. Cellulose fibers act like steel rods, giving the wall strength. Hemicellulose holds those rods together, while lignin adds extra hardness, especially in wood. In fact, it's lignin that makes trees strong enough to stand tall for centuries. Plant cell walls come in layers. The primary wall is thin and flexible, allowing young cells to grow. The secondary wall is thicker and more rigid, giving mature cells strength. And between cells lies the middle lamella, a sticky pectin-rich layer that glues neighboring cells together, almost like cement between bricks. Without these walls, plants would collapse under their own weight. With them, they can transport water upward, resist pests, and grow into everything from blades of grass to towering redwoods. And in our daily lives, we meet plant cell walls in wood, paper, cotton, and even the dietary fiber that keeps our digestion healthy. Fungi, too, rely on cell walls, but theirs are made from a very different material, chitin. The same substance that forms the shells of crabs and insects also builds the walls of mushrooms and molds. Chitin makes fungal walls strong and protective, helping fungi survive harsh environments. It also gives them the characteristic toughness. Ever tried to break a dried mushroom stem? That's chitin at work. But fungal walls are more than just armor. They're also crucial in biotechnology. From antibiotics like penicillin to enzymes used in industry, fungi and their unique walls have shaped medicine and modern science. Now, let's shrink down to the microscopic world of bacteria. Their walls are built from peptidoglycan, also known as moraine, a mesh of sugars and amino acids that forms a strong but flexible cage around the cell. Not all bacterial walls are the same. In gram-positive bacteria, the peptidoglycan layer is thick, so when scientists stain them, they appear purple under the microscope. Gram-negative bacteria, on the other hand, have a much thinner peptidoglycan wall, but with an additional outer membrane. These stain pink, and are often harder to treat with antibiotics. Why does this matter? Because many antibiotics, like penicillin, specifically target peptidoglycan, weakening the wall until the bacterium bursts. But as resistance grows, some bacteria evolve to outsmart these drugs, making the bacterial cell wall a critical battleground in modern medicine. Algae, the green architects of the oceans, also have cell walls. Most are made of cellulose, like plants, but many species add other materials, such as mannans or alginates. These compounds aren't just important in nature. Humans have found countless uses for them. Alginates, extracted from brown algae, are used in food as thickeners, in cosmetics as stabilizers, and even in wound dressings. So the slimy feel of seaweed at the beach, that's the cell wall's chemistry in action. And finally, some of the most stunning cell walls on Earth belong to diatoms, microscopic algae encased in shells of pure silica. These shells, called frustules, are like tiny glass houses with intricate patterns more beautiful than any stained glass window. Diatoms may be small, but they play a massive role in our planet's ecology. They absorb carbon dioxide, release oxygen, and form the base of many marine food chains. In fact, every second breath you take likely comes from oxygen produced by diatoms. Their glassy cell walls aren't just works of art, they're engines of life on Earth. So from plants and fungi to bacteria, algae, and diatoms, the cell wall appears in many different forms, built from different materials, yet always serving the same purpose: strength, protection, and survival. But not all cells rely on walls. In fact, some gave them up entirely, including us. Which brings us to the question: why don't animal cells have walls at all? The answer lies in flexibility. Unlike plants or fungi, animal cells are surrounded only by a thin, dynamic cell membrane. This allows them to bend, fold, and move freely. Imagine if your muscle or nerve cells were locked inside rigid walls. Running, breathing, or even thinking would be impossible. By giving up the cell wall, animals gain something greater: mobility and specialization. This flexibility allowed the evolution of muscles that contract, nerves that fire signals, and immune cells that chase down invaders. So in a way, the lack of a cell wall became an evolutionary advantage, opening the door to the incredible diversity of animal life we see today, from tiny insects to humans. Let's clear up one of the most common confusions: the difference between a cell membrane and a cell wall. Every living cell, whether in animals, plants, fungi, or bacteria, has a cell membrane. It's thin, flexible, and works like a gatekeeper, controlling what enters and leaves the cell. Think of it as the security system of life, always present and always active. But not all organisms have a cell wall. Plants, fungi, and many bacteria add this extra outer layer. Unlike the soft membrane, the wall is rigid and protective, giving cells shape and mechanical strength. A quick comparison makes it crystal clear. Cell membrane flexible, found in all cells, selectively permeable. Cell wall rigid, found only in some organisms, provides support and protection. So next time you see this in an exam, just remember, the membrane is universal, the wall is optional. From the towering trees to microscopic bacteria, life builds walls to survive. But humans chose flexibility instead, a reminder that while walls protect, sometimes breaking free from them is what truly makes us human. That's it for today's episode on the cell wall. If you'd like to dive deeper into other fascinating cell structures, don't miss the video right here.